Hello, Chocy Chat crew. It's the 2nd of May. Can you believe it? We're nearly halfway through. 2nd of May, it's episode 177. Hello, Chocy Chat crew. It's been a while. It's been a couple of weeks. We were away travelling, a little bit of work, a little bit of eating. I mean, a little bit of tourism, a lot of eating. Did I mention that we were eating? Good evening, everybody. How is everybody doing? It's been a little while, hasn't it? I didn't do a live last week because what were we doing this time last week? We were walking around Italy really late, and I completely lost track of time. So yeah, that's my excuse. How's everybody doing? Was Easter kind to everybody? Nettie, I can see. Hello. Montrero, I think it is. Hello. Ronnie, I can see. How are you? I'm really good. Trilly Chocolates. So Sassy joined us there. Ruth joined us. Hello, Ruth. Isle Bakes. Maria there over in the Isle of Wight. We're enjoying some lovely weather down here at the minute. It's not chocolate making weather, not by any means. It was cocoa butter making days, but a little bit warm for chocolate making down here. Billy, Scottish Chocolates. I am good, mate. I am really good. Sebastian, hello. Karen King. Mo the Baker. Hello, James and crew. She's saying hello, Chocy Chat crew. I hope everybody's well. Is everybody well? I hope everybody's got some nice sunshine going on. It's been got weird buttons coming up everywhere on here. Kelly Wessels joined us. Yeah, we were away for we were in Paris for a couple of days, and then we were in Rome for a couple of days. A little bit of work, meeting chefs, meeting suppliers, a few conversations here and there. I hope everybody had a wonderful Easter. Did everybody have a wonderful Easter? Melissa's there. Hi, Melissa. Let's send some waves out. I can't believe it's May. We're nearly halfway through, right? We are nearly halfway through. I can't believe it is the 2nd of May today. Absolutely scary how fast this year is going. Faster than last year, if I'm honest. A couple of new names there. If you're new, welcome to Chocy Chat. If you got questions, fire them away. I think they're bonjour, ça va? If you got questions, fire them over. By all means, I'll try and answer them. If I know the answer, I'll answer. If I don't know the answer, I will try and find out for you. That's always the way. That's Chocy Chat. The trip was fabulous. Paris. I don't think Paris is particularly. I'm not gonna. The risk of not offending anybody that's Parisian here or French. I think I'll probably they'd be inclined to agree. Paris is not particularly family friendly, right? Which I was aware of and have been aware of. I think it depends on where you go. I think, you know, I've worked in the south of France, which is a completely different culture altogether. Paris was. We had a lovely time. Saw the Eiffel Tower. We saw the things. There's a famous bakery the girls wanted to go to. So we did that. Eiffel Tower during the day, Eiffel Tower at night, absolutely amazing. Went to the Louvre, did all the kind of normal things, and then headed to Italy, which is a completely different vibe. I think I posted a story about it. I like Paris, but as I said, it's not particularly family friendly, so it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge getting around, I think, with children. Restaurants, all that kind of thing. So yeah, awkward, but yeah, we had a nice time, all time away. And I think for me and Mrs. So Sassy, it was kind of half work, half play as well. So we got back here at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I came straight into here starting putting orders together. So that was kind of like that was a bump when we landed. So love the new blue shade. Yes, I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. So Mo's saying welcome to any newbies joining us. Come over and say hello always. Jason at Ethan Bradley Chocolates. Sebastian saying I've been having issues with moulding with white chocolate. I was curious if there's a reason or a difference in technique between white chocolate and dark chocolate. There is. That chocolate's chocolate, right? So it contains so the dark chocolate, milk chocolate contains cocoa mass. White chocolate doesn't. Dark chocolate, milk chocolate. Dark chocolate is the most brittle, right? So when you temper it and it chills down and it's come back to room temperature, it's very, very brittle and it's got a really, really good snap to it. Milk chocolate is a little bit more bendy, and then white chocolate white chocolate doesn't have that real snap that you get from dark chocolate. And it's just to do with how all those fats bind up, and the milk powder is very soft, and it's very malleable. So what happens is it kind of, white chocolate struggles to retract like the other chocolates. There's a couple of things that you can do. One, I think the other thing is, the other problem people have with white chocolate is that the graph that's on the side of the packaging says working temperature 29 degrees. If you've got colour in a mould and you go and shell at 29 degrees, you're going to be bitterly disappointed. It's too low a temperature to melt that layer of cocoa butter. Let me get one that I prepared earlier. If you've got colour in your mould, when we pour so when you sprayed and you've decorated, when you go to shell, that chocolate needs to, ideally, it needs to be about like 31 and a half. I shell everything at 32 degrees, milk, white, dark, all of it. I shell everything at 32 because I'm putting the beta crystals in there with silk. So a lot of the packaging says to shell at 29. If you do that, you don't melt, you don't soften this layer of colour. So what happens is, and there's two parts, Sebastian, to answering this. If we shell, if we're painting with colour, and it's very, very thick layer, you need a little bit more warmth in your chocolate. The challenge that you have with the warmth of the chocolate will melt that layer so that when they cool, they both retract together. Okay, so it's two separate layers sitting on top of each other. So if we shell at 29 degrees, what happens is you end up with a load of colour left in the mould. And I always see that, I get sent that picture regularly, and it's always white chocolate's the culprit. And at 31, it's quite fluid. White chocolate at 31, 30 and a half is very, very fluid. So you need to pour it into the mould, leave it in there. You know, normally we leave the chocolate in 20, 30 seconds, maybe leave it in a little bit longer before you decant everything out and tap everything out of the mould. The other thing is that white chocolate, it's always thinner. White chocolate is always visibly more thinner. So, and you can see it, you know, the reason people that cap with white chocolate look at the caps and go like, that is absolutely amazing. It's much, much thinner and it pools quicker. So the challenge that you have is with white chocolate is you always end up with a thinner shell if you're shelling at 30, 31 and a half, right? But if we've got colour involved with the mould, we need to shell at 31 and a half, because 29 won't be enough to melt that layer and you end up with a load of colour left in the mould, right? So, couple of things that you can do. One, leave the chocolate in there a little bit longer. Shell at 32 if you're using silk. If you are seeding, when you warm that chocolate back up to kind of 31, just do it very, very, very gently, otherwise you'll melt all those beta crystals. I think the other thing that you can be aware of is if you're using silk or micro, do 2%, because it will just get it to bind up much, much quicker. The other thing is you would shell. So you would shell, let me get more. You would shell, put your chocolate in, leave it in there a little bit longer. We'd tap everything out, scrape the mould clean. We'd leave it upside down until it's gone dull. When it's gone dull, we'll turn the mould on its side. When it's on its side, give it 7 or 8 minutes, okay? And then we want to get that into a really cold fridge. Like when I say cold fridge, 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees is more than enough, and just force them to retract a little bit quicker. But you have to do that when the mould's been out of the room temperature. So we'd shell, wait for it to go dull, turn it on its side, and when it's on its side, that's when the timer starts. 6, 7 minutes, and it will just let that completely dry, and then put it in the fridge and give it a shock. But the longer it's in the fridge, the more moisture white chocolate will absorb, and if it's in the fridge too long, when you go to touch them, they kind of feel greasy, right? And that's just the moisture that's stuck to it. So colder the fridge, force it to retract and bring it back to room temperature. White chocolate is the one that a lot of chefs struggle with, and I think one is the cocoa butter gets stuck in the mould because you use the chocolate at too low temperature. The other problem is that it's too thin a shell, so very difficult to thicken chocolate. You can thin it down, but you can't thicken it up. Dark chocolate, you can add more mass, but that changes all sorts. Dark chocolate is the most brittle. Milk chocolate, depending on the percentage, not as brittle as dark chocolate, but a little bit better. White chocolate, if you think about it, it's very, very malleable. It just doesn't, unless it's a really thick layer, it just does not have that snap. So you're trying to shell a little bit thicker. The thicker the shell, the thicker that shell, the better it retracts, but within reason. Final point on answering this question: if you want to do thicker shells, there's no bonbon police. So if you want to do that was shelled twice because it's got a very thin white dark chocolate, and then we shelled it with a caramelized chocolate as well, just so that I can have a thicker shell. If the shells are a little bit thicker, it's not the end of the world. The thicker the shell, the better it retracts. And you see people that do the really big Easter eggs, so it's really thick, you know, centimetre thick chocolate. They retract so well, the shine is so good. Very, very thin shells don't retract very well because there's just no tensile strength for it all to pull away, right? So I hope that answers that one, Sebastian. I hope that answers that one. But yeah, start. Send me a picture or a video, Sebastian, of what's actually happening, and I'll see if there's something else going on there as well, right? So Leanne saying hello everybody, hope everybody's well. Aaron's joined us, Evelyn, Chocodilic. Did I miss a question there? No, I'm going to scroll forward. I was busy chatting. Nell at Mind Your Temper. Nadia's saying welcome back. We had a lovely time, Nadia, thank you. Oh, did you know, I didn't touch on this, but with Paris, a couple of chocolate shops that we went to. Interesting. If you're allowed in. And then, or if they were open, that was the other thing. There's a couple that we went to and the door was shut and they're like, no, come back. Okay. Very awkward. Very, very awkward. What was I going to say? Yeah, we had a lovely time. James, I'm good, thank you. Can you go through the steps of making dry caramel using induction hot? Induction, I don't use induction hot. We have one that's called a Control Freak. Stupidly expensive Breville machine, and it's right at the very, very top end of induction stoves. That one I will make caramel on because it's got a very different induction plate to what's normal. With the smaller induction stoves, the challenge you have is when the pan goes down. Induction stoves work by the magnets, so they normally have a thick base on the pan, and what it does is it makes that solid base, it vibrates really fast rate, and that's what heats up the pan, okay? But it will only go so far, and they've got a built-in, that most of them have got a built-in safety mechanism where when it senses that the pan is too hot, it turns the stove off. So, or it raises the heat so quickly that you run out of control. So, I mean, I know chefs, I know there's a couple of chefs here that use little mini gas stoves, you know, the one that has the carton of the gas cylinder that goes on the side. They use those for caramel. Induction, the challenge you have is it heats the pan too quick, and then when it senses the pan's too hot, it turns it off. So it's very hard to get to the high temperature when you've actually got caramel. In essence, the trick, I think, with dry caramel, in essence, is control the temperature. So if you want to try and do it on induction, we put a little bit of sugar in first and we get on a low heat. So the pan needs to be hot, but then we turn the heat down. Put a little bit of sugar in and let that get to a semi-liquid state, and then we're not trying to, right from the beginning, we're not trying to get to that high temperature. What we're trying to do is just melt all those sugar crystals back to a liquid. So it's quite a gelatinous, it's quite not gelatinous, it's quite a thick, gooey, honey-looking mass. So you start the first one, and we need a liquid to get the crystals to dissolve into the next liquid. So a little bit of sugar, keep stirring continuously, don't stop stirring, keep moving it around. Once you've got a liquid, add a little bit more sugar, but that next amount of sugar that you put in is cold, and that lowers the temperature of the pan. Just take your time. What you're trying to do is get all those sugar crystals melted to a liquid, then you take the temperature up to 182 or 84, whatever temperature it is that you want. I would never tip all the sugar into the pan and then turn the heat on, because you're going to spend your time with a spoon smashing all the lumps because you've like kind of lost control of it, right? Induction, unless you've got very good induction stoves, they are problematic. They turn off, and if you think about it, you know, oil, we're trying to heat oil to 190 degrees, right, for frying. And if you think that, you know, water boils at 100, so the pan, absolutely fine. As soon as we get into the 180, 190 mark on an induction stove, if the pan gets that hot, which caramel will do, it senses the pan's burnt dry, so it turns it off and it starts clicking on and off, on and off, on and off, and then you lose control of the temperature. Gas every time. I think the pure and simple key to dry caramels is controlling temperature. I will very often put the pan on the gas on a low heat, and I'll leave it for quite a few minutes to get really, really hot. When I know it's hot enough, as soon as I pour that first kind of, it's like 30, it's 20 grams of sugar. Once that goes in there, if I see that turn liquid almost immediately, I'll do a little bit more sugar just to cool that pan down a little bit, so that I've got a control here. I'm not trying to hit 182 right at the beginning, just trying to dissolve all that sugar crystal. So I think that answered that one. Made chocolates. Hello, hello. Who's Andrew styling chocolates? Hello. I'm going to say some hellos out. Chocolates. I can see that's Sylvia, I think, isn't it? Lots of new names here. If you're new, fire away. If you've got questions, I don't mind. I can answer them. If I can't answer them, I will. I'm not going to bluff you. If I know the answer, I'll give you the answer. If I don't know the answer, I will find out for you, I'm sure. Question on silk. If the butter got too liquid and not creamy, can you just lower the temperature down, or you have to leave it outside again? If you, okay, so for like the easy temper, if it gets a little bit too liquid, there will still be some beta crystals in there. Okay, if you lift that container out and you leave it for a couple of minutes and it almost solidifies, I'd put the lid back on and put it straight in, and it will go back through that cycle and it produce the beta crystals there. Because what the incubation is that it's actually growing crystals, which is one beta crystal is attaching to another, to another, and to another, and to another. This is why they're polymorphs, right? So they're chains of crystals. If you think it's gone above 33.8, you're not going to have any beta crystals in there. So you're going to need to take it out, pour it onto somewhere, or put it into a bowl and continually mix it, maybe over some cold water, to just get it to form those beta crystals again, and then put that back into the container and then go again. If you've knocked the blue button off and it's gone way out of temperature, it's gone way out over temperature, I just retemper it over a bowl of cold water. And then go again. If you leave it in the machine, it's just never going to cool down enough to reform to that silky mass. Okay. Philip Vieira, hello, hello. They're in Austria. Karen's saying, when you mention putting the moulds in the fridge, do you mean normal fridge or a chocolate fridge? Normal fridge. A normal fridge. Challenge that people have with, and you know, there's a few here that probably recognise this. Wine fridges don't quite get low, so wine fridges will sit kind of 14, 16 degrees, which is great for storing chocolate, but not ideal when you're doing production. So we want a fridge that's kind of, mine's set for production. Mine's are set at 8 degrees. I don't need them any lower than that. There's nothing high risk in there. There's literally just chocolate in there, and some nut paste. When I say put it into the fridge, if we melt chocolate to 34 and we add silk to it, so whether that's micro or whether that's silk, or we take tempered chocolate and we shell and we tip everything out, that starts to solidify when it gets down to about the 21 degree mark. Okay, so we start at 20, we're starting at 31, it cools down very, very rapidly. And tempered chocolate cools much, much faster, okay, because that's all those crystals binding up. And it goes through this dull stage and it reaches 21. If we drop that temperature below 14 degrees, it will retract. It will shrink really, really quickly. That's when the beta crystals will bind up and they will shrink. That's what retraction is. So we just need to drop it below 14 degrees, but sustained. If you put them in the fridge at 14 degrees, it's probably going to take quite a long time for those to retract. Whereas if you put them in the fridge that's like 8 degrees, they'll probably retract in a minute or two. Certainly, all the production that I do, because we have air conditioning, but it's a portable unit for in here, whereas the workshop's got full-on air conditioning. But for this room here, certainly when I'm teaching, we will paint the molds, we'll put them in the fridge, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and do it like that. And then when we shell, we tip everything out, tap everything out, we scrape it clean, we leave it upside down, just at a slight angle until it's gone dull. As soon as that's gone dull, I'll turn it on its side so all the warm air goes upwards. And once that's been in that upright position for 7 or 8, 9 minutes, okay, we'll just put that into the fridge upwards like that, with the domes facing me, facing the outside. So go into the fridge that way. If the fridge is at 8 degrees, it could be a minute, minute and a half, and all of them will retract. And as soon as they've retracted, we're filling them. As soon as that filling is firm enough, we're capping them. And as soon as the cap's firm enough, they're coming out. Right, I don't want them in the mould any longer than they need to be. Wine fridge, normal fridge, your domestic fridge at home is probably around about the 6 degree mark. I'd be really surprised if it's any warmer than that. Obviously, the more that you go in and out the fridge, you know, the challenge with wine fridges, the motors aren't very big. So if you keep going in and out, the dial reads the same, but the internal temperature could be, you know, much higher, and it takes a long time to come down. So whereas with the commercial fridge, you can hear that one's just clicked on now. Mine are noisy. They're getting changed shortly. Getting changed for silent ones. These are going to the factory, and then I've got new ones coming in here because I continue to teach in here. So they've got bigger motors in, so when you open and close the door, it drops the temperature very quickly. So Louis shared a reel the other day and he was using a fruit butter. Yeah, so what they call fruit butters is fluid gels, right? Different names depending on where you are. Gina Surfaleg, hello. James, your new website is awesome. Thank you. Got some new colours. I have got some. That's Paula as well. Hi Paula. Didn't mean to ignore you. Yeah, fruit butter. There's a couple of different names to it. Essentially, it's a fluid gel, but what you can do is you can take a liquid and whip it into butter, and if you get it to emulsify, because there's acids in the fruit, eventually what you end up with something that's quite pipeable, right? Comes from the patisserie industry, so, but very short shelf life. There's a question there. Got some new colours. They're in the bottle, so you can't really see them, but these are, this is a neon, so there's two colours, electric blue and neon red. They are bright. They are really bright. They're on the website now. I will put the spec sheets on very shortly. A completely different size of silicate mica. These will spray through a 0.5. I suspect these will spray through a 0.3, although I've not tried it. It'll go through 0.5, really fine texture. And we used FD and C colours as opposed to E colours for this one. It's kind of all part of the plan to do with FDA approval and all that kind of stuff. Bigger vision for the business. These are really bright. These are really bright. Really bright. Day glow almost. So there's only 2 ingredients, but it's to do with the silicate mica that's in there. It's just very new product for me. I've had it a while, been playing with it, done some tests, done some bits and pieces, and then realised that actually, wow, quite something. So that's a product we haven't made for us, because I just get really demanding with suppliers. So happy days. They're available now. So yeah, the electric blue. I will do some shells with them tomorrow, and there'll be some samples and bits and pieces going out. A couple of people have tested those already, so I'm kind of happy with the results. The red is nothing like any of the others. It almost looks like fuchsia, but fuchsia compared to it looks much darker. But there's only one red in there. It's literally 3 ingredients: cocoa butter, silicate mica, and the colouring. Really vibrant, really vibrant. A little bit better if they're backed with white. But it will shell perfectly well on its own, right? And they are both interference colours, so you will see in the red you will see a little bit of a blue tinge in there as well. Almost looks purpley on the edge of the mould, which I quite like, right? So in which time you go to Jordan to give classes in Bonbon? Not sure yet. I don't know. Jordan, I'm in the Middle East shortly, but I'm not in Jordan. I've got classes elsewhere, but I don't know if we'll make it there this year. I'm not sure yet. This is so sassy knows that information, not me. I don't know what I'm doing next week. Dolce Mara, how are you? Who else we got? Puppy Loves. Lots of new names here. If you're new, fire the questions over by all means. Marshmallow Delights, hello. Coco Jones, salams, how are you? I'm good, thank you. Creative Confections. What's the difference between a gel and a pâte frite? Not a huge amount really. It's chef talk, isn't it? Pâte frite's a jelly, right? It's a jam. Fluid gels generally are hydrocolloid thickened with a gelling agent, but it's not it's similar to fruit butter, similar to a gel texture, but there's no gelling agent. It's just using the emulsified fats to hold its shape, right? Random question: would that fruit butter be safe for inside my cakes? Yeah, I would have thought so. Fairly short shelf life cakes, isn't it? You kind of want to be eating them within 3 days, so I would have thought so. I need to go and have a look at that. I chatted to Louis earlier. I chat to Louis a lot, just never about chocolate. Never. We're talking about food. Talking about food and random weird conversations. I'm going to go off on a tangent now. I'll ask him the shelf life. No doubt everybody's asking what the shelf life is anyway, but what type of the new colours? They're type A and C, so it's got silicate mica in it, and it's got an azo colour in it, so very bright. I do like them. The girls, when I was making it, so we did batches a while ago, and then we lodge through the regulators what we're making and what goes into it and all that kind of stuff. And I was making this earlier, and the girls like just staring at it going, wow, that's amazing. Yes, May, I was going to suggest that, but they're type A and C, and they're both titanium free as well. Sorry, Instagram keeps freezing every few seconds. I'll have to watch later on YouTube. Bye everyone. Coco Jones, why can't you see the questions? It's all working my side. It keeps freezing for people. Might be. Try exiting and coming back. I don't know. It's all working on my side. I don't know. There's a really good question. Dolce Mara, I'm glad to hear you're good with Mother's Day chocolates and Easter. Dolce Mara, I've been watching your stuff. I just love the stuff that you make. I love everybody that makes stuff on here. I don't get to make chocolates as much anymore. I'm either teaching or making chocolates with people. I do miss it. I truly miss it. And I watch what everybody's making, and they tag us in the colours that they've used, and I'm kind of like... that's the route it's gone, right? Nadia's asked a really interesting question here. For pâte de frites, is there a way to enhance the fruit flavour when using homemade puree? Is it a matter of increasing the citric acid? I'm going to talk about one of my favourite ingredients. It's called malic acid, right? If I got some, and I know this firsthand, and I will tell you right away, citric acid is a little bit of an enemy in the kitchen, all right? Because it's so aggressive. And I've talked to you before about malic acid and citric acid, ascorbic acid as an antioxidant. We could use ascorbic acid. I worked for a chef years ago, and rather than putting ascorbic acid into, do you remember the little mints that were called smints? We used to have to powder them down in a pestle and mortar. So we were making something with orange, we'd buy the orange ones. If we were doing something with mint, we'd use the mint ones, because essentially it's ascorbic acid. The challenge you have with citric acid is if I had if we had a blackcurrant pâte de frite and a raspberry one and a strawberry one, another one like a mango one, right? If we put citric acid in all of them, what happens over a period of time is that citric acid doesn't go away. It just doesn't disappear. It doesn't dissipate, right? So eventually, like if you covered your eyes and you ate one of those, after like 3, 4, 5 weeks, if you eat one of those and close your eyes, you're like, they'll taste the same. And that's the challenge that you have with citric acid, because it on a graph, if we had a graph in like time versus height, okay, citric acid, when you eat it, it's just wallop and it just stays up there forever. Lemon juice is kind of quite a steep rise and it tails off fairly quickly. Ascorbic acid, really high climb, just dies off almost immediately. Malic acid is a good friend, all right? Malic acid is hugely underrated, and I think malic acid's probably much nicer for pâte de fruits. One, you can put it into the fruit puree and it will give you a slow growth. And what malic acid does is it grows really slowly and then it tails off, right? It's probably wrong use of the graph. It tails up slowly and it tails away really slowly. Whereas citric acid, it just goes wallop and it's just on that top line for ages. Citric acid is the one that makes you think that your eyes are bleeding. With pâte de fruits, I wouldn't increase the citric acid. What I'd do is play with some different acids. So have a look at zests, citrus zests. Have a look at lemon juices or lime juices. Have a look at, because they're the ascorbic ones, right? Have a look at using malic acid as opposed to citric acid. Malic acid is the acid from apples, and it's it's a salt, right? So think of them as seasonings. And you know, I talk endlessly about the virtues of molten salt. What I like about molten salt is, if I'm a little bit over generous, it's not offensive. And that's a nice place to be when you can season things and you think, oh, maybe I've gone a little bit far. You don't ruin it, and I think that's the beauty of molten salt. Malic acid is the same. If you go a little bit too far, you're not in danger of ruining it. Whereas I know that with citric acid, 1 grain too much is like, can't eat it. It's just like my eyes are watering. And because it's got such a high acidity on the tongue in terms of perception, whatever you eat, and eventually just all tastes the same, all right? And I think acids are, we need acids to bring out flavour. And acids and salts behave the same way, because taste is on the tongue, flavour is up here. So we got flavour, smells, and taste. If you've got great homemade fruit purees, which will have amazing flavour to them, we just need to increase the taste in them, and we do that with acids or salts, or a combination of both. Sweet, the opposite of sweet is sour, and the opposite of bitter is salt, and I think those two are really hugely valuable lessons. Certainly for all the chefs that worked for me over the years, is something that they remember. We used to get like pots of tomato juice, just pure tomato juice, like from a can, pureed up, or passata, right? And we'd give them salt and sugar, and you'd have to flavour and season your own and taste it. And when you thought it was perfectly seasoned, you got to put it in front of you. And then what we did is we gave them table salt and we gave them citric acid or a little bit of vinegar, because that's what chefs would use, right? And then you had to pass it along the line, and everybody's tasting somebody else's and they're like, oh, it's really terrible. Then we did exactly the same thing, but this time we gave them molten salt and we gave them malic acid, and they seasoned it. And when they had to pass it along, everybody's like, oh, that's quite nice actually, right? There's a good lesson in there. Good lesson there. Change the acid a little bit. So Sylvia's working in Texas. It's Mother's Day, isn't it? Shortly. I've got friends in Bahrain here, all over. Paula saying I use malic acids in all my pâte de fruits. It's just, you know, if you discover molten salt, there's other good salts, right? Molten's my favourite, I think, because it's just so long established, right? Malic acid is the same. It's just like my go-to. We use it in our home cooking, we use it in production, and I've always insisted in kitchens, and it's a lesson I learned. Malic acid is a lesson I learned. It was a guy called Louis Esperon, and it was probably about 1988, and he was the one that told me about citric acid, malic acid, ascorbic acid, and how they behave in that graph, because he made me take a spoon of vinegar and he made me eat a spoon of citric acid, and I had no taste for the rest of the day. Valuable lessons, taste. Play with the different acids, because that's your armory to increase flavour and taste, right? And you're dealing with the public who maybe don't have such a refined palate, so what you don't want to do is shock them with citric acid, which is just overly used, right? It's overly used. Having said that, citric acid, you make a white chocolate ganache and you put some citric acid in there, you will mimic yogurt flavour, right? So it does have its uses. Marine Benet, pretty fancy chocolates, hello, hello. Kelly, yeah, exactly that. So pectin, once pectin is diluted into the fruit puree and the sugar, so we want to get that rehydrated but above 40 degrees, okay? So it needs to be above 40 degrees. Once that's rehydrated, this is why we don't pour all the sugar in one go, because the temperature drops and then we end up with these bubbles of pectin which is activated too early. So we'd warm the fruit puree, put the sugar in a little bit at a time, maintain that heat well above 40 degrees. It doesn't matter what acid you do, you could squeeze lemon juice in there. At the very, very end, it will cause that structure to form, all right? Cause it to gel. So whether you use lemon juice, citric acid, malic acid, as I say, I just prefer, there's lots of it. Malic acid, 20 grams of malic acid, 50 grams of water, put it in a bottle, give it a really, really good shake, keep it in the fridge. It's good for years, right? It will maintain its acidity. A few drops, and a few drops is as good as a big cupful, right? When you do pâte de fruits, you just need enough to cause that catalytic action, and it will make the pectin gel, and it will mesh, and then you need to get it out really, really quickly because it'll be setting. If you put pectin in a liquid that's below 40 degrees, you will find that it clumps and it doesn't disperse, and it will activate a little bit too early, and then the acid that's in the fruits will activate it too early, so we don't want it to do that. So we would always add everything over 40 degrees, all right? This is why you see the recipes for pâte de fruits and it says warm the fruit puree and add the sugars, and then blend the pectin in a little bit of sugar and put it in small amounts. What you don't want to do is dump it all in, because one, it won't disperse nicely. The other is you don't want to cool the pan down, right? If you cool the pan down, it drops below 40, you're going to have problems with pectin. Technique is everything. Can malic acid be exchanged for citric acid 1-to-1? Yeah, absolutely, same thing. Think of them, Nadia, think of them as seasonings, right? So you would season, hot cookery in the kitchen, you would season things. Well, think of the acids, whether it's malic acid, ascorbic acid, citric acid, whatever it is that you choose to do. Think of them as, you'd sprinkle a little bit in, make sure it's blended in, have a taste. And then if you think it needs some more acidity, we go a little bit more. Think of them as seasonings, right? Think of them as salts, think of them as seasoning, and that you can swap them like for like, right? I think that you just get a much fairer, a much more refined product when you swap citric acid out for malic acid, because of that growth, right? And the acidity grows on you slowly and it tails off. That's where flavour lives, right? Flavour lives in that slow growth. That's like chili, for example. Not a big fan of chili. One of my food hates. I don't like truffle oil, and I dislike chili, but I like it in some things, and I like it when the chefs know how to use it. Because chili's really nice when it slowly grows on you and like, oh hello. What I don't want to is eat something and my face is on fire. That's just totally disagree with that. Can't stand that kind of thing. Malic acid is the same. You just want something that's going to grow on you slowly, and that's where the flavour comes from, right? Just give your tongue and palate a little bit of time to warm up to what's going on, right? Especially if you're eating lots and lots of different things. Your brain's got to work all this out. It gets the flavour very quickly, but it might not get the taste as quick. Malic acid is just a little bit more forgiving. And swap one for the other. You can use, I'm not anti-citric acid, it has its place, but it's very, very aggressive, very aggressive. A bit like buying really, really cheap. If you buy, balsamic vinegar, if you buy really, really cheap balsamic vinegar, which is acetic acid, that's the proper eye-watering stuff. Whereas if you get a really, really good balsamic vinegar, you can detect the sweetness on it and you're like, that's really, really pleasant. You get them wrong and you ruin dinner, right? The salad is destroyed. I'm preparing for a new event next week. They're guessing 750 to 1,000. I'm making brownies, cookies, truffles, bonbons. Hard to know how much to do and if it's worth it. Any advice? Think of, you know, the weather. What do they want to buy? What's the price point? It's hard to know with markets. I would talk to any other food vendors that have been there before and maybe take their guidance with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But I think the idea of markets is what's recoverable. If you go down there with brownies, are they freezable and can you sell them in your shop, Evelyn? If you go down there with cookies and truffles, can you bring them back and recover them? Are you going to store things down there if it's warm in containers, so you're only putting a little bit out at the time? It's nice to go to a market and sell out, but it's also nice to go to a market and anything you bring back, you can actually recover and put back away, right? Brownies will always sell, especially if you put it with clotted cream or ice cream. Chocolate in warm weather. I did a post about this week. You know, chocolate in warm weather is a tough sell. It's doable. People start considering the storage of it and where do I keep it, and am I going to walk around the market and is it going to melt and have I wasted my money, and it's that kind of like decision making. I did a post earlier in the week about what to do when the chocolate season ends and it doesn't. You just got to diversify a little bit. And it's not, you know, lots of people wrote some comments on there and somebody said, you know, the strongest survive. And I don't think it's the strongest that survive. I think it's the people that have the grit and determination to adapt. You know, I'll tell you an anecdote, a story. Like my time in kitchens, the chefs used to get quite frustrated because they'd come in the morning and I'd move the kitchen round. But I used to move the kitchen round for what was happening. So when we had big wedding season, we needed more table space, which meant putting all the fridges together and all the tables so they're big long lines, because I didn't want people to walk as far to get stuff. It's, you know, we're plating hundreds and hundreds of plates up to keep them all in lines. When it got to, you know, Christmas parties and that kind of thing, or busy a la carte nights, the kitchen looks like, we moved the kitchen round depending on what we were doing, because it just saved them some footfall, it saved them some steps a day. And I think if you imagine that as chefs we were 45,000 steps a day is probably normal. A busy day is 55 to 65,000 steps in a day for most chefs. If you can reduce that by 20%, it's considerable. It's really, really considerable. When I talk about adapting, what I mean is, what are the things that you're capable of making? If you've got a food license, what can you, like, we had this conversation earlier today, scones. Somebody said to me, you can't buy nice scones anywhere. No, we could, if you knew where to get them, right? Scones sell, macaroons sell, profiteroles sell, eclairs sell, brownies sell. If you've got a food license, how can you adapt it for a couple of months? You know, we're in May, so we're nearly halfway through. Another 3-4 months time, so 16 weeks, it's going to go pretty quick. We're going to be looking at starting chocolate again, right? Or into full production of chocolate. For those that have got wholesale and all those kind of things going on, absolutely magical. You've got to go and find those customers. And that's something that you do whilst you're busy doing chocolate during the colder months, right? But you have to adapt and improvise. And if you think about what you're capable of making and what your license allows you to make, that's the route that you need to go thinking down. I think the people that sit there, and I hope there's none in Chocy Chat, that sit there and go, oh, it's summer, I'm going to be out of work, I'm going to close, it's like, no, just sit up, pick yourself up, get a grip, get some determination. You own your own business. Go and find your customers. Go and tell the world about the amazing... Like, if you've learned to make chocolate bonbons, you can learn to make this other stuff, because it's truly not as difficult. Making brownies is nowhere near as complicated as painting, shelling, airbrushing, and all the rest of it. So, actually, there's no reason why you can't just improvise and adapt a little bit. Or you make the decision to close down, but not complain that you've had to close down because you can't do anything, right? The world is your oyster, and you can do whatever you want to do. And if you are working for yourself, you're the boss. You're not an employee, you're a business owner. You can do whatever you want. You don't need permission. If you've got a food license and you're working from home, you're allowed to make whatever you want to make, right? You know the rules about doing it safely. You're well aware of the food hygiene laws. Admittedly, the people in the US with the cottage laws, slightly different, but those seem to be becoming relaxed as I talk to more. I've done classes this week with people, you know, on the East Coast, Central, Mid-States, and all the way over in Oregon, all the way down to California, and that the rules seem to be being relaxed so that people can produce things to generate income, right? It's not the fittest survive, it's the people that have the grit and determination to say, right, well, not selling chocolate, I'll make this instead. But keep the chocolate thing going, keep promoting, keep telling stories, keep telling people what you're doing. Nobody's coming to save you. Got to get on with it, right? You've got to get on with it. And as I said, you're your own, you know, if you're working at home and you're doing your own thing and you're self-employed and it's your business, you're in charge. You can make whatever you want, right? You can make all the decisions without somebody above you going, you know, ugh. So crack on, get it done. Chocy Chat is here to help. I'm going to do a post later in the week for Florentines, all right? My version of Florentines, which are really nice. I'm going to show you a little cheat code because you've all got glucose at home, you've all got flour at home, you've all got butter at home. I'm going to show you a little post that's chocolate related, but they are glucose biscuits. And when they cook, they're rock hard, but you can treat them like Florentines and they don't go soft. So you put them in a tub, put them on the shelf, or put them in the cold, and they are still good, like 3, 4, 5 months later, still crispy. So watch out for that post later in the week. Once I've got past, I don't know if you noticed, but we're a little bit light. I need to go and get some colours from the workshop. I got a little bit cleaned out. This is what happens when I take a week off, right? Citric blends 1-to-1 with water, yeah, and malic acid. It's only an acid solution. When I'm doing, Mo's saying when I'm doing jam, that mess extra pectin, I mix it with some of the jam before adding. Yep, that'll do it. What is the malic? Malic acid is a type of acid from apples, green apples. Malic acid is the acid from green apples. I didn't know you could add to chocolate would really help on the sweetness, as I have to do a white chocolate wedding cake. There's lots of new names here. If you've got questions, fire them over. All right for time. Trying to make filled chocolate bars, but the caps are cracking and it's not a fluid filling, so not sure why it's happening or how to avoid it. Trying to make Dolcimara, send me a video or a picky of the bat so I can see what that cracking is. It in the edge? Is it down the middle? Is it over tempered chocolate? I don't know. Send me a picture. Dolcimara, you know this. Send me a picture. Send me a video. I will try and get to them. I get the same. Everybody that's in Chocy Chat crew, I kind of know all the names. If you say you've got struggle, send me a video and I will get to it as soon as I can. Send me a video, send me a picture, and I'll try and solve it for you. Very often it's a very obvious thing, right? Sophia So Sassy's joined. Chocoloco Chocolatiers. Charity. Hello Charity, that has been a long time. Charity, how are you? She's in Zambia. Jason's saying there, marshmallow's a good one. Right, you got mixers, you got blenders. Start adapting what you could do, right? You'd be truly amazed the route it goes down, right? Okay, Pom Coco, I was literally looking at the Florentine while listening. I'll do the Florentines this week, and we're going to use. You all have these mats, right? You all have these mats, and I've got some that are very textured, right? So I got these ones that are really textured on one side. So on one side it's smooth, on the other side it's matte. I'm going to show you some Florentines, and it's just going to be almond, cherry. So not hugely traditional Florentines, but I'm going to show you a version of it. I'll show you a version of it this week, so just bear with me. I don't know what day I'm going to post that. I think it's going to be about Thursday next week, so just bear with me. But if I get it done a little bit earlier, the girls are chomping at the bit, and it was only Mrs. So Sassy that said to me, I really like Florentines. I was like, oh, I know how to make those really well. I used to make thousands a day. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that this week, right? watch out for the Florentine post. Pastry by Elise. Hi, I'm a bit late to the stream. Not at all. I will save this one. All the videos now are on YouTube, so I got back into the habit. The man that runs, is it Mosley? The guy that runs Instagram messaged me back because I sent him a message and said, you're deleting all the messages, and I got 3 years worth of lessons saved as lives, and I do lives every Friday night and have done for the last 3 years. And he just sent back, really? And I said, yeah, really. So all the people that I talk to, I've got 3 years worth of classes. And he just wrote interesting. So for somebody that's so vocal on Instagram, he only writes one-word messages. Obviously a busy boy like me, right? So, Chef, I tried to make some chocolate bonbon stamps. I think I got the idea of how it's been made finally. The greatest learning you will ever have is from trying to work out something and from failure. All right, and I'm a true believer. Like, I don't think you should go out of your way to fail, but I think you need to make mistakes, and I think you need to fail, and I think some things need to get you to the point where you are absolutely frustrated, and you stop, make a pot of tea, go and have a sit down, and then come back and re-attack. That's where the greatest learning, that's where growth, that's where progression comes from, right? And sometimes it's worth looking at something and saying, I don't understand how that works, and just thinking through it in a logical, analytical order, right? That's where the greatest learning is, always, always. Creative Confections. I've been discouraged about not being able to use cream with the cottage license. I know I can make gandouillas, fruit and coffee ganaches, mint patties, etc., but my best caramels and ganaches use cream. What, Creative Confections, what state are you in? Whereabouts are you? Ping me a message, because I talk to a lot of home producers in the US, and it seems to be very different state to state. And we have had chats with, you know, Sonoma County is one in California. We spoke to some people in Pittsburgh, so the food inspectors. We had literally 3-way conference calls, myself, the student, and none of them had a major problem when it's high heat treated cream. When we showed them the evidence and the base recipe of it, that we're not using fresh cream, we are ultra high heating it, they didn't seem to have a problem with it. So there's the cottage laws is an interpretation of those rules, and I know that the rules are changed. Like New Jersey, for instance, has completely changed what was their cottage rules, whereas I don't think Connecticut has. So Creative Confections, just ping me a message of where you are and I'll see if I can help, because caramels are a good thing, but we could make caramel ganaches, right? And caramel ganaches don't necessarily need to have cream in. They can be a caramel that has chocolate blended into it, right? In a way. Chocolate. Cherry's saying, I've adapted so much that I've become a pastry chef. Happy days. Be all of it. If you're your own, you make things that people want to buy. Make things that people want to buy. I make things that people want to buy. I make the chocolates that people want to buy. You have to make the things that people want to buy. I talk about ego. Ego is the little voice that tells you you're better than you actually are. And what ego also does is doesn't listen to advice. So what do the customers want? What do the customers want? What do the customers want? And if you need, your job is to go and find your customers. And if you're going to find your customers, what would you like to see? You've all got Instagram, you've all got stories, you've all got the ability to go on there and do a little tab and say, look, we're just going to switch things up in the warm weather. What would you like me to see me make, right? And then go with that, because that's how you get through this bit, right? What you can't do is sit down and go, it's difficult, nobody's buying my chocolate. All right, don't make chocolate then, make something else. Just, I don't know, same for me, sales slow down for me. Although Southern Hemisphere picks up for me, and the classes really pick up for me. But the next few months, it's not the sales that we get in, you know, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. You need to, and I talk to hundreds of businesses, right? So take the advice from me. The ones that are doing really, really well are the ones that are not afraid to go, actually, do you know what? I'm going to have a crack at making macarons. And if they're not the perfect shape like you see on Instagram, who cares? Do you think your customers know the ultimate, you know, curvature of what an amazing macaron is? No, they want something tasty, and they want something that you've bought or you've made, because that's the connection, right? And you've got to tap into that. Shortbread and ginger nut. It's nice wee fortnightly order from the local court staff. Keeps the wolf from the door. Happy days. Make what people want to buy, right? It's all well and good filling your shop with you know, or your store with things that you think are amazing. If your customers aren't buying them, it ain't what they're looking for, right? So make stuff they want to buy. There's never enough time. Never enough time. There's never enough time. Plan your day, get stuff done. You know, if you're working for yourself, you either take the summer off or you keep working, right? And the more you work and the more you adapt, the more you improvise, the more you shout what you're doing, and the bigger the following, and eventually it grows and grows and grows until you say, right, I need some help. So I'll bring somebody in to help me. And I'll give them the bits that I don't like doing, right? And I'll keep doing the fun bits that I want to do, because that's the beauty of being a boss, right? That's the beauty of working for yourself. If you hire people, you get them to do the stuff that's not as right. I spend a lot of time sat around thinking, okay? And I put a lot of effort into sitting down and just reorganising what it is that I think I need to do. Mrs. So Sassy is absolutely amazing, because she stops me going down the route. I've been talking about these colours for ages, and she said, go on, go and get them made, go and get them done, go. I get to do the fun bit, right? Other people do the bits that aren't quite, or the bits that I don't find fun. So Creative Confections, can you just ping me a message and we'll have a chat, because I would like to see what your cottage laws are for your county in terms of what it says, because I know Sonoma County, it said you weren't allowed to do filled chocolates, and I said, well, what about bonbons? And she said, yeah, bonbons are fine. I'm like, but they're filled chocolates. And she said, are they? Tell you can't write this stuff. During the summer, meringues are a big hit for me. Yeah. I've made a major decision. When I move into my new home, I'm going to start teaching. Mo the baker, that is the best thing I've heard. The flowers that you said, the cake, girls are still talking about the cake that you sent. And it's also Seren's birthday cake. And the flowers still have pride of place, and somebody saw those recently and said, oh, are they dried flowers? I'm like, no, that's icing sugar. That's sugar. They're like, no, they're real flowers. I'm like, no. Mo, you want something there without a doubt? I'm terrified as I don't have any teaching qualifications, but I'll give it a go. If it doesn't work, at least I've given it a go. Teaching, keep it simple. You're only teaching a few things at a time. You know, I think be yourself, right? I think you have to have a style to teaching, and I think you just have to be yourself and share the passion, right? There is nothing worse than stand in front of a teacher who reads it off monotonously, like, you know, do this and then do this and then do this, because like the students are like, they're just falling asleep bored. I think if you're teaching, I think your students need to leave absolutely inspired, bouncing off the walls, ready to go and do what it is that you just taught them. And if they're not, maybe you shouldn't be teaching. Right. May Chocolates, I think, is on holiday. May, I'll get in touch with you shortly, because you won 3 bottles, because we're going to get those all those stickers done. So It's 9:30. I've got to go. I've got a date with Mrs. So Sassy in the garden. Dawn saying she loves Chocy Chat. I love Chocy Chat. Right, last point, and I will go into this on the page. I wrote something down about selling on the Chocy Chat, on a Chocy Chat Facebook page. Not something I wanted to do, so I will write something there because I think the general consensus is no selling. And I've had lots of private messages, and then people wrote stuff down as well. So I will write something down on the Chocy Chat page for everybody. I want to keep it no selling. I want to keep Chocy Chat as a page where we share ideas, share inspiring stories, help each other. I didn't want it to turn into selling this, selling that, selling all the other bits, because it will descend into absolute chaos. So I will write something on the Chocy Chat page about that. Sorry I missed you all last week. It's episode 77. It's the 2nd of May. We're nearly halfway through. Have a think about what I said tonight. The colours are there. I will see you in like a few hours for episode 178. See if we get some guests on shortly as well, as people haven't got much going on, right? I will see you all next week. Have an absolutely amazing one.